Shadow Priest in patch 10.2 for Season 3 of Dragonflight is one of my favourite specs there is. And this is a beginner guide, so it's not going to be information overload, but what it is going to do is give you a really core understanding of the entire specialisation so that you can work your way up to Keystone Master or ahead of the curve in Heroic raiding. You are looking at doing Keystones over Mythic plus 20 or raiding Mythic, then this is going to give you a fantastic core understanding that by the time you get to that point, you're going to be a pro. First things first, let's look at the stat priority quickly for Shadow Priests in patch 10.2. I like to look at my priorities as a pyramid. So the bottom of the pyramid, which is the biggest part, is the most you're going to want. So that is going to be haste. It's a very fast-paced and haste important spec. Then second is going to be mastery, third is crit, and last but not least, well actually last and least in this case, is versatility. But don't worry about that because ideally, as long as it's an eye level increase, who cares, okay? As long as it's an eye level increase, you're going to be getting more intellect and that's all we really, really care about. Next up, I'm going to show you the talent build here that I am running with. This is a really good core beginner build that is going to help you in Mythic Plus and raiding. And I'm not going to go through what each individual talent does, but I am going to discuss some of the core ones that make really fundamental changes to how the spec works. So don't worry about that. Just click the import string in my description and load it straight into your talent tree. Or you can look now and, put it in yourself, which I find fun sometimes. I would advise, however, that once you are really comfortable with the spec, that you do go back through the talent tree if you're playing this a lot and just see how it all kind of fits together and it can really help your understanding. But as a beginner, don't worry. Before we actually go into the core rotation that you're going to be playing, I just want to go over some of the actual cooldowns and utilities that you have at your disposal as a Shadow Priest. So first up here, we've got Desperate Prayer. This is quite literally a self-heal when you're in an uh-oh situation. Then we have Power Infusion. Now this is a really interesting one that they've changed in patch 10.2, where to start with, it gives you some haste, okay? It gives you 20% haste and it's really great. However, it used to only be for you. Now there's a talent, I think it's like Twin Priestesses of the Sun or something. This talent has made it so that if you use it on an ally, you are also going to receive 100% of the benefit. If you use it on yourself, you're selfish, then no one else is going to benefit. If you use it on an ally, you also get the same benefit. So always use this on an ally now. It's really great. I love how they're moving in kind of a more support spell situation with different classes. Then we have Dispersion, where you disappear into a puff of smoke almost, and this is going to shield and heal you and reduce damage taken, etc. It's a really fantastic defensive and it looks cool. Then we have Dark Ascension. This is going to increase your non-damage over time damage. This is another cooldown. You're going to want to use it on cooldown. Last but not least, Mindbender. It summons a Mindbender, which is like an octopus thing, to attack your target. Use it on cooldown. Very, very straightforward and simple. Looking at some of the actual core utilities that you have at your disposal, and all specializations for Priest have these, by the way. First is, of course, the Magical Mastery spell, which is what made Priests such a meta in patch 10.1 in Season 2. It's a huge area where you dispel everything within it. It's phenomenal. Second of all, Leap of Faith. You're going to pull your ally to you, saving them from whatever rubbish they're standing in because they aren't looking what they're doing and things like that. Levitate. Oh, ignore the description on Levitate. It isn't at the cost of health. I think I left that in from another guide I was doing. Levitate simply makes you levitate and it's almost like a slow fall, can be really useful. And then Angelic Feather. You have 3 charges of this and you basically plop on the ground where you decide an Angelic Feather, and it's actually going to place a feather that grants movement speed, and it's not just for you. Anyone that steps over these will get the benefit. Finally, now we're actually going to look at how to put this all together and play the Shadow Priest for Season 3. So first things first, down here you'll see that we have Shadow Form. Always be in Shadow Form, absolutely always, okay? And then on this weak aura here, which by the way is in my description below, you're going to see that we have an extra bar, which is this 0 here. This is called Insanity. A lot of our spells are going to build Insanity, and then we have one spell which is going to spend Insanity, okay? And we're going to go through that a bit more in a second. So let's actually look at the core rotation. First things first is that you're going to want to keep up at all times Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch on your target. These are your 2 damage over time spells. What I will say is that there's a talent we have, and that is actually going to make it so that if you cast Vampiric Touch, it's also going to apply Shadow Word Pain. So you never actually need to put Shadow Word Pain on the target individually, but you are always going to want to use Vampiric Touch to put them both on there. Keep these up at all times. If it's AoE and there's multiple targets, or at the very start of the fight, you can use this one here, Shadow Crash, which is a placeable spell like this, and it's going to put both of them onto all targets within the area. You can see both target dummies here now have this on. Basically, these 2 dots keep them up at all times. Next up, and I have put these spells on here in the order of priority, by the way, sort of. So the next thing we're going to want to cast on cooldown is Shadow Word Death, and then our Mind Blast. You have 2 charges of Mind Blast, always be using that on cooldown. We then have Mind Games. To put it simply, what this does is, if your enemy is doing damage to someone, putting Mind Games on them will make that damage do healing. And if they're healing someone, like in PvP, then it's going to make them be doing damage instead. So it literally is playing mind games with your target. Use this as well on cooldown. And then Halo, which I'll show you what it does. Quite literally a big old shadowy halo coming out of you. Use that on cooldown as well. And you can see here, we're starting to build up some insanity here. Let's use our Mind Blasts again. And now you can see that this one has been highlighted, which is Devouring Plague. This is our insanity spender, okay? That is the one we're going to spend insanity on. Now, you'll see down here we've got our cooldowns. Again, use Power Infusion on an ally on cooldown. Use your Mind Bender on cooldown. And also use your Dark Ascension on cooldown, or when you've got a really good point in the fight where you can do a lot of damage. Now, we've got enough insanity to use our Devouring Plague again. Something is going to happen when we use it the second time. And you can see here, our Mind Flay, which is this 5th one, has now turned into Mind Flay Insanity. This is going to happen every 2 times that you use Devouring Plague. Sorry, every 2 times, so every second time you use your Devouring Plague, it will empower your Mind Flay. Use this as a priority when this happens. So you use Devouring Plague to spend your insanity, nothing happens. You use Devouring Plague again to spend insanity, and that will then proc your Mind Flay. Now, if you've done all of this, so you've got your dots up with Vampiric, you've used Shadow Word Death, you've used both of your Mind Blasts, you've used Mind Games and Halo, and you've used your Devouring Plague, you've got nothing else to do, then just use your normal Mind Flay. Mind Flay is your filler when there is quite literally nothing else to do. And that is pretty much it for playing Shadow Priest. Just to recap, Vampiric Touch to keep your 2 dots up, Shadow Word Death on cooldown, both of your Mind Blasts on cooldown, Mind Bender and Dark Ascension on cooldown, Mind Blast of course when it procs, and then these 2 on cooldown, and Mind Flay when you've got nothing else to do, Devouring Plague on cooldown. And you can see here it's procced it, and there we go, there's our Mind Flay Insanity. So it's quite a fast spec. You've got a lot going on, but honestly, it is so fun and I really enjoy it. I hope I've done it justice of explaining this. And if you did enjoy this beginner guide, do check my channel because I actually do a lot of specialization guides, as many as I can pump out at the moment for patch 10.2 season 3. And I may even be doing some Classic Plus. So let me know if you would like that in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe.